Have you ever hovered your thumb over the send button on a text message
Oh, yeah.
and you tap the glass and then immediately your stomach just completely drops out of your body? You know exactly the feeling I'm talking
It
about.
is universal.
It's that agonizing microsecond where you realize your thumb just committed a catastrophic error. The little loading bar is racing across the top of the screen, and there is absolutely zero physical friction stopping it from ruining your day.
Which is actually a fascinating, uniquely modern neurological mismatch.
How do you mean?
Well, evolutionarily speaking, our threat responses were designed for immediate physical danger. You see a predator, your body floods with adrenaline, and your nervous system demands that you fight or run.
Right.
But today, you can be sitting on your extraordinarily comfortable living room couch, completely physically safe, while simultaneously realizing you just incinerated your professional reputation with a half-second slip of a finger.
A microscopic tap.
Exactly. The brain simply doesn't know how to process that dichotomy. You have physical safety on one hand and total social ruin on the other.
And there's no buildup to it either. If you're going to insult someone to their face, you have to walk across the room, take a breath, and actually form the words.
There's inherent friction.
Yes. But the physical action of sending a benign meme to your sister and sending a career-ending critique to your boss is exactly the same action.
Just a tap.
Just a tap. And that lack of friction and the visceral reaction to it is the core of what we are unpacking in today's deep dive here on Just Johnny and Sophie.
And today is a bit of a special case.
It is. Because usually we analyze external documents, but today, well, I am the main character of this deep dive. We are looking at a highly detailed account of a textbook communication misfire that I experienced.
It involves a deeply honest text message and the fallout that rippled through your social circle right after.
Mainly focusing on my friends Maya, Lily, Dan, and Marcus, because how they reacted is honestly the most revealing part of this whole disaster.
Our goal here is to perform an anatomy of a digital disaster by breaking down the misfire, the immediate psychological paralysis that followed, and the varied ways your friend group attempted to process the secondhand panic. We can actually map out the behavioral loops we all fall into when technology betrays our intentions.
So let's get right into the mechanics of what happened. Setting the scene, I was dealing with a really frustrating situation at work.
A tale as old as time.
Right. So I decided to draft this massive venting text to my confidant, my friend Maya, and this wasn't a quick two-sentence complaint.
No, looking at the timeline, this was a sprawling, highly detailed, unpolished brain dump.
It really was. It contained candid, completely unfiltered opinions about a specific coworker. Not necessarily malicious, I wouldn't say, but definitely stripping away the professional mask.
The venting text is such an interesting artifact of modern work culture because it relies entirely on the premise of a sealed environment.
A safe space.
Exactly. When you send a message like that to a trusted friend, you are leveraging years of shared context.
Yeah.
Maya knows your communication style. She knows your baseline frustrations, your boundaries.
She knows I'm just blowing off steam.
Right.
Yeah.
The coworker, on the other hand, only has the professional context. So when those raw, unpolished perceptions breach the containment of that trusted friendship,
They become instantly toxic.
instantly toxic in the professional environment. Which brings us to the moment of the breach.
Yeah, the breach. So I finished typing this novel. To send it to Maya. I hit send. And then the moment the screen refreshes, my brain registers a visual anomaly.
Something's off.
The chat interface just looks wrong. The color of the bubbles, the lack of recent photos in the thread. It's not Maya's thread. I realize I just hand-delivered this massive, unfiltered critique directly to the coworker the text was entirely about.
And this is where the timeline gets really interesting from a behavioral standpoint. Because after realizing the mistake, you noted a very specific metric. You stared at your phone, completely motionless, for exactly 45 seconds.
45 seconds in digital time is an absolute eternity.
It is.
You can live an entire lifetime of panic in 45 seconds. I could almost picture the system failure happening in my brain in real time.
Because that is precisely what it is, a cognitive system failure. In a high-stress moment, the brain tries to quickly compute a path forward by running through a decision tree.
Looking for an exit.
Looking for an exit. But in this scenario, every single branch of that tree leads to a socially disastrous outcome. You can't unsend it, you can't intercept their phone, you can't erase their memory.
I know.
The mind hits a brick wall trying to reconcile the reality of what you intended to do with the violent reality of what actually occurred. And because it cannot calculate a safe exit strategy, The motor function simply shut down.
The ultimate freeze response.
That 45-second paralysis is exactly that.
But the freeze always breaks eventually, and the instinct to immediately regain control of the situation is incredibly overpowering. So once I break out of that paralysis, I type out 4 words.
Oh, this part.
I know, I send, "Sorry, wrong person."
It physically hurts to read that part of the timeline.
It's the digital equivalent of dropping a glass and frantically trying to catch the shards while they're already on the floor.
They're just going to cut your hands.
Exactly. By sending "sorry, wrong person," I stripped away the only microscopic layer of protection I had left.
In behavioral psychology, we often look at the urge to make it worse, doing the exact thing that seals your fate while desperately trying to save yourself.
Which is exactly what I did.
The psychological friction here is that sitting in the silence of the mistake feels intolerable. Panic demands action. But without that follow-up text, you maintained a fraction of a percent of plausible deniability.
I could have claimed my account was spoofed, or that it was an inside joke completely devoid of its original context, or a weird copy-paste glitch.
Right. Even if the coworker didn't fully believe it, the seed of doubt would be there. Ambiguity is your only shield in that moment.
But the moment I actively typed "sorry, wrong person,"
You are legally authenticating the disaster. You confirm 3 things simultaneously. I wrote this, it is an honest reflection of my thoughts, and it is entirely about you.
I locked myself inside the trap.
Because the need to perform an action, any action, overrides the strategic value of silence.
And the coworker's response perfectly illustrates the strategic value of silence. You might expect a furious paragraph back, right? Or a demand for a meeting, or just a string of angry question marks.
Something you can push back against.
Exactly. Instead, the coworker replies with just 2 words, "I know."
A masterclass in linguistic minimalism.
It is so heavy, no punctuation, no emojis, just "I know." It completely flipped the board.
Think about the power dynamic shift occurring in those 2 words alone. If the coworker gets angry and writes a huge paragraph, you suddenly have something to react to.
I could defend myself.
You can defend yourself, you can apologize for specific points, you can manage their anger. If they ask a question, you have an opening to spin the narrative.
But "I know" offers 0 leverage.
0. It refuses to engage with the panic. It simply acknowledges the newly established reality and forces you to sit alone in the uncomfortable, echoing silence of your own actions.
So sitting in that psychological checkmate, I did what almost anyone would do when the pressure becomes absolutely intolerable. I crowdsourced the anxiety.
You took a screenshot.
I screenshot the devastating "I know" text and fired it off to Maya, who was supposed to be the recipient in the first place, and looped in the rest of our core group. Lily, Dan, and Marcus.
The deployment of the emergency broadcast system.
Obviously.
When we can't process the weight of a social failure ourselves, we distribute the load across our network. And looking at the breakdown of how your friends reacted is truly like looking at a behavioral index of modern digital anxiety.
Because they really are the main characters of this specific phase of the disaster. You have these distinct archetypes of secondhand panic.
Let's break them down. Maya's reaction is the loudest.
Oh, she is the alarmist. She fired off 14 messages in rapid succession, and it culminated in a single text that was just my name in all caps, Sophie.
Maya functions as the Greek chorus of this tragedy.
She completely matched the frequency of my panic, but, from a practical standpoint, 14 messages of pure shock doesn't actually help solve the problem, does it?
No, it doesn't solve the problem, but it serves a crucial emotional utility. Maya isn't trying to problem solve. She is providing validation.
Validation.
Yes. When you make a catastrophic error, part of the terror is the isolation. It's the feeling that you are alone in this surreal nightmare. Maya's dramatic reaction mirrors your internal state. It validates the severity of the pain.
So she's confirming I'm not crazy for panicking.
Exactly. 14 rapid-fire messages is the digital equivalent of grabbing your friend by the shoulders and screaming with them. It's exhausting, but in the immediate aftermath of a shock, that shared intensity can actually be deeply validating.
Which is such a sharp contrast to Lily. Lily is the friend who looks at the smoldering wreckage of my professional life and texts back, "Next time, read the name before you send."
The classic analytical bypass.
It's the instinct to find a mechanical solution to an emotional hemorrhage. It's like standing next to someone whose house is actively engulfed in flames.
And advising them to check the batteries in their smoke detectors next year.
Yes. It is factually correct, but structurally useless in the present moment.
But what Lily's doing is actually a defense mechanism of her own.
Really?
Empathy requires you to step into the uncomfortable emotional space of the person suffering. By immediately pivoting to a logical procedural fix, read the name before you send, Lily protects herself from having to feel that secondhand embarrassment.
She distances herself.
Right. She reduces a complex social disaster into a simple data entry error. It's a way of saying, this is a mechanical flaw, not an emotional crisis, so I don't need to panic.
Wow. And then you have Dan. Dan takes a completely different approach. Dan watches this 5-alarm fire happen in the group chat and says absolutely nothing for 3 entire days.
The restraint is remarkable.
It is, and when he finally does weigh in 3 days later, his profound contribution is just that top heaven.
Dan operates on a different temporal plane than the rest of the group. Maya catastrophizes, Lily rationalizes, but Dan normalizes.
There is an element of temporal distancing there, right?
Absolutely. Viewing a crisis from the perspective of the future naturally reduces its emotional charge. By forcing a 3-day delay, Dan essentially lets the acute panic burn itself out.
He waited until the fire was just embers.
Precisely. That happens is the ultimate minimization. It completely lacks the empathetic mirroring that Maya provided, but it introduces a very necessary grounded perspective.
He's reminding me that human error is a constant.
The world is still spinning, and this event, while agonizing, is not historically exceptional. Mistakes happen.
But the reaction that actually resonated with me the most, the one I found unexpectedly comforting out of all of them, came from Marcus.
Let's talk about Marcus.
All Marcus texted was, "It'll be fine."
Hmm.
And it's fascinating to me that those 4 words were the only thing that actually helped to lower my heart rate.
Because Marcus manages to address the core terror without amplifying it, like Maya did, or dismissing it, like Lily or Dan.
He just faced it.
Right. When you are deep in a panic response, the brain is convinced the threat is existential. Your social survival feels legitimately at risk.
It really did.
Maya reinforces that danger. Lily critiques the past. Dan dismisses the present. But Marcus guarantees the future.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Gently overrides the existential dread by promising that the ego will in fact survive this. He projects a future state of safety that your panicked brain couldn't construct for itself in that 45-second freeze.
That projection of safety brings us to the actual aftermath of the situation, which is perhaps the most revealing part of this whole account. The professional issue that sparked the massive venting text.
How did that pan out?
It resolved itself completely fine. The project moved forward, the work got done.
It is a great reminder of how much cognitive energy we burn catastrophizing about logistical hurdles that naturally sort themselves out.
True, but the interpersonal relationship between me and the coworker is where the real tension still lives today, because it has been 2 weeks since that "I know" text.
Yeah.
And we have not spoken a single word about the message. We have entered into this intense, unspoken, silent agreement to collaboratively pretend the event never occurred.
The silent agreement is a phenomenal social dynamic. It is a mutually constructed alternate reality.
It feels like it.
Both individuals know the truth. Both individuals are fully aware that the other person knows the truth. Yet they cooperatively maintain the fiction of ignorance to preserve the surface tension of their professional environment.
But doesn't a silent agreement just act like an emotional pressure cooker? I feel like I traded a 5-minute agonizing conversation for months of low-grade chronic anxiety.
It absolutely does.
Every time I pass them in the hallway or jump on a Zoom call, I know that they know, and they know that I know they know.
You are trading short-term pain for chronic discomfort. It is an emotional deferment plan with terrible interest rates.
That is exactly what it feels like.
We default to it because humans instinctively prioritize the avoidance of short-term pain over the acquisition of long-term peace. Confronting the issue requires a tremendous amount of vulnerability.
So we take the path of least resistance.
Right. The coworker avoids addressing the uncomfortable critiques, and you avoid the excruciating vulnerability of explaining yourself.
Which really highlights the road I didn't take, the concept of owning it.
Taking full accountability without excuses.
Yeah, which sounds great in a corporate leadership seminar, but it is agonizing in practice. Because owning it would mean walking up to that coworker, looking them in the eye and saying, "I sent you a message meant for someone else. Those are my honest thoughts. I am mortified you had to read them that way, and I take full responsibility."
The reason that scenario gives you anxiety just thinking about it is because it requires dismantling the ego's primary defense mechanism.
Which is what?
Intention. Notice how we constantly use the phrase, "I didn't mean to," when we make a mistake. We use the logistics of our intention as a shield against the impact of our actions.
Oh, wow. Because saying, I didn't mean to send it to you, focuses entirely on the delivery method rather than taking responsibility for the actual content of the thought.
Exactly. Owning it strips away that shield. It acknowledges that regardless of the intended recipient, the thoughts were yours, the words were yours, and the impact is real.
Yeah.
While the silent agreement offers the illusion of relief, it breeds that chronic anxiety you mentioned. You are forever waiting for the other shoe to drop.
You really are.
Owning the mistake causes acute, intense pain in the short term, but it is the only reliable mechanism for achieving genuine, long-term resolution. You neutralize the secret by dragging it out into the light.
You take the power back rather than letting those two words, I know, hang over your head for the rest of your career. It completely shifts how you view accountability.
It does.
So, turning us back to you, listening right now, think about your own digital habits and your own group chats. Are you relying on the lack of physical friction to fire off thoughts you'd never say out loud?
It's easy to do.
Very easy. And when the inevitable misfire happens, how do you manage the fallout? Do you instinctively reach for the, I didn't mean to, shields to protect your ego? Do you hope for a silent agreement to just wash the awkwardness away and accept the chronic anxiety that comes with it? Or are you willing to endure the short-term agony of stepping up and truly owning the impact of your words?
And as you reflect on your own communication missteps, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. When we accidentally reveal our private, unfiltered thoughts to the absolute wrong person, what is the actual core of the panic?
What do you mean?
Is it the fact that they now know the honest truth about how we perceive him? Or is it the sudden, terrifying realization that we have completely lost control over the carefully curated narrative of who we pretend to be?
Oh, man, that is a heavy one to chew on. Definitely something to think about the next time your thumb is hovering over that send button. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.